All right, guys, what's going on? Jacob here, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. Just got done watching the game. Miami Dolphins obviously win, move 7-8 on the season. More importantly, we kept our playoff hopes alive for another week. Miami Dolphins have to win out. The Denver Broncos had to lose out. The Colts had to lose at least one game. I should have it in just fully just in my brain by now, based off how many times Tony Romo was talking about it. I mean, how many times can he break down how the Dolphins can make the playoffs? He just kept going on and on and on about it. Just overall, really thought that Tony Romo and the commentating group in general were just really on the Dolphins side here tonight. And I guess it's a better story for them since the 49ers are already out of the playoffs. So it's a better story to focus on the Dolphins, who still have a chance at doing something this season. And the Dolphins still have a chance of doing something this season. Like I said, we got to win out, got to get some other help. But we took care of business here today against the 49ers team that we got to be honest about where they are as a team. This is not beating the 49ers of last year. It's not beating the 49ers of really any of the last 5 years. They had 1 year in the mix where they were pretty beat up and didn't make the playoffs, and that's what they're looking at this season. 6-9 now. Just more injuries to that offensive line. They just can't withstand the amount of injuries that they face this season. The Lions, it is incredible what Dan Campbell has been able to do with that team, but the 49ers, their injuries have just gotten too much. The fatigue of just going deep into the playoffs year after year and also not winning it can definitely deject the locker room, start to eat away at the culture. So this is not the greatest 49ers team we've ever seen. But it didn't matter. The Dolphins have to take care of business if they want to make the playoffs, have to beat the teams in front of them. And they did that. And they did that with all three aspects of the game. Highlight, of course, first and foremost, Jason Sanders continuing to save this Dolphins season, continuing to, I don't want to say save his career. I think he's gone beyond this point, because there was a point 2 years ago with Jason Sanders where I was hoping the Dolphins would cut him and get a new kicker. And then he basically got us into the playoffs single-handedly, beating the Jets last game of the season to get us into the playoffs 2 years ago. And then since then, he hasn't really had any blemishes on the record. Continues that today. Special teams in general, outside of his kick out of bounds, which was pretty weird, and saw Mike McDaniel yelling at him on TV. Jake Bailey, another good day from him. Defense, Anthony Weaver has started to solidify a culture within that defense. They were a lot tougher. They established a line of scrimmage today. We know what we're getting from this defense. It's a lot of 28, 29, 30-year-olds, but there have been some players that, as the season has gone on, have gotten better, like Jordan Brooks, like Chop Robinson. 6 sacks now on the season, got in the backfield all game long, and somebody who so far I've been really wrong about. Chop Robinson, I was mad about the pick. At the time, I was pretty displeased, but I'd let him play out his this season and make my judgment based off that. But halfway through the season, I called Chop Robinson a bust, and it is definitely looking like that was incorrect. Chop Robinson is getting in the backfield. He is using multiple ways to get into the backfield. In college at Penn State, he was more of a one-trick pony, just going to speed rush, and if he didn't get with that, wasn't getting to the quarterback. Now you see him starting to diversify his moves to get to the quarterback, and a big sack there at the end, keeping Brock Purdy in bounds. Then pretty much just killed the game at that point if it wasn't already killed. But he had a big day. Defense, really happy for Kader Kohu, seeing him get an interception when he has not had a good season, just like pretty much all this secondary hasn't had a good season. Just seeing him get there, right place, right time, gets the interception. So good to see from him. Overall defense, again, defensive line, establishing the line of scrimmage, huge. They could not run the ball at all game long. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, they got theirs, but the Dolphins really did a good job of limiting everybody else across the board for the San Francisco 49ers. People that are left for the 49ers to throw the ball to hand the ball off to. They're on their, 4th, 5th string running back at this point. Juwan Jennings has gone from just a blocking wide receiver to arguably wide receiver 1 some weeks. But they took the defense, did the job, took care of business against what once was a great team in this league, kept the season alive. And then the offensive side of the ball got the job done. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't exciting until that last big play from Devon Achane, where we finally see him able to break one and get a big play, resulting in a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, this is a season that he'd like to forget. We know what we're getting from Tyreek Hill now. You're not going to get the 8 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns like we just saw from Justin Jefferson. You're not getting that from Tyreek Hill. Clearly, the wrist is still very much bothering him, and we'll see if he's on this team next season. But definitely not somebody that is going to win us games at this point where he's at health-wise. Tua just didn't throw the game away like he did last week. 3 interceptions to 0 interceptions, and that's the difference. The defense last week played a pretty good game of football. Did that carry carried that again into this week. So Tua just not throwing the ball away keeps the Dolphins season alive. Tua doing so without Jalen Waddle, with a rotating door at guard. Teron Armstead, if I'm not mistaken, played the entire game for the first time in what feels like all season. So a lot of things went right for the Dolphins against a team where a lot of things are going wrong. And this leaves the Dolphins with a situation where we still could make the playoffs. It's hard to believe. It doesn't feel right. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but it can. And that's all you can put your hat on. That's all you can live with at this point in the season. Are you going to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. Would it feel good to make the playoffs? Absolutely. This team, so many questions about them, so many questions about what's going to happen this offseason. This video is going to go one of two very different ways. If the Dolphins lost, season over with. If they win, season continues. That conversation is still probably going to happen at some point when the Dolphins season does end, because I think this team is going to look a lot different next year. I think Mike McDaniel is going to retain his job. I think Chris Grier is going to be gone. I think it's going to be a completely overhauled defense that we see on really all layers of the defense. But for now, the Dolphins survive and advance and live to fight another day. And that's all you can ask for. All 3 areas of the team played well. The rushing game, Devon Achane, 191 total yards, finally getting over 100 yards. I think they said something in the broadcast where the Dolphins had their worst 5-game stretch in team history when it comes to running the ball. I expected it to be bad coming into the season with Mike McDaniel. Like, hadn't been able to establish a run that much outside the rushing touchdowns last year from Raheem Mostert, which were kind of inflated. But we knew this year it wasn't going to be the same, losing 2 of our best interior offensive linemen, especially when it comes to running the ball. But the rushing attack has been terrible all year. And then Devon Achane, a little bit inflated at the end with that big run, but gets the job done. Jonnu Smith sets the record for catches and reception yards from a tight end. It's a good day to be a Dolphin. Sometimes you just got to accept that. Whatever the season ends up being, a lot like I talked about after the Jets game. Like, look, the Jets game wasn't perfect. There was a lot of points in the game against the Jets where I wanted to rip my hair out, where I wanted to leave the game early because I was at that game. Donovan was at the game today, probably still stuck in traffic right now at the time of recording this. But that game wasn't perfect. There was a lot of things to point out and critique that some of y'all did in the comments for that video, and rightfully so. And for this game, I'm sure you could comb over it and say, well, we could have got Tyreek Hill more involved. We could have converted some of our field goals into touchdowns, which are true. We could have done that. But we still won the game. We got it done, and it's a performance that keeps the season alive. It's a performance that shows that this team is still very much interested in this season. I thought McDaniel's job was probably safe, but he still is on trial for his job. You're not safe until you're safe. You're not safe until next season starts, or you're not really safe till, like, realistically speaking, like 3 weeks after the season ends. How this locker room performs for him, how this team goes out there on the field and fights in these last few games, knowing that they're probably not going to make the playoffs, and probably knowing that even if you do make the playoffs, you're going to go against a Buffalo, against a Baltimore, and just see yourself get blown out. So to see them fight like they did today, for performance to be proud of, all 3 aspects of the game, Miami Dolphins controlled. I don't want to say dominate because the scoreboard wasn't necessarily dominant towards the Dolphins till the end, but the Miami Dolphins played the game they wanted to play. They wanted to take checkdowns. They wanted to get Devon Achane involved. They knew that Tyreek Hill wasn't going to be someone that was heavily used, and they found other ways to push the ball downfield. It'd be nice to convert some of those field goals into touchdowns, but it's nice seeing Mike McDaniel accept the field goals and just accept the points and take them, and that's ultimately what won the Miami Dolphins the game. Let me know your thoughts on this game down below. The Dolphins moved to 7-8, taking down the 49ers 29-17. Good performances all across the board. Offense, defense, special teams, players within there that should be highlighted. Kader Kohou, I think I already mentioned him. If I didn't, I wanted to make sure I mentioned Kader Kohou. Overall, having a bad season. Right place, right time, getting interception. So great to see for him. Just overall, I'm pleased. We won a game. Season's still alive. I can't find a whole lot to complain about within that. So let me know your thoughts on the game down below in the comments. Breaking down the game more over the next week. And then we'll get into arguably 2 of the easiest games on our schedule when we look at the schedule in the beginning of the season. Browns away, Jets away. 2 games you have to win, 2 games you should win. And if you win, just might make the playoffs. So let me know your thoughts down below. While down there, hit that like button, hit that sub button. Go check out Green Gridiron. Go get yourself one of these beautiful replica helmets. We'll see y'all next time. Enjoy this win. It's been a rough season. Enjoy it while it's here. Have a great rest of your day. Go Dolphins.